Back to channel. Today we are going to start the inflammation. Actually, inflammation is essential for survival of any organism due to their ability to get rid of the damaged or necrotic tissue. So you can imagine whenever there is a redness or that swollen inflamed area, it's mainly to actually accumulate the fluid, all the more blood allowing there, and to remove the all the microbes are affecting area, so that it's nothing but the inflammation is a response to our injury. It's nothing but causing good to us, that is it's removing all the microbes and all the suffering agents which are causing that particular inflammation. So it is the host response that accomplishes these goals is known as inflammation. So it is actually a protective response. So if it would go unchecked, the wounds would never heal and the tissue might remain permanent as a festering source. So it's a complex reaction in the tissues, mainly in the response of the blood vessels and the leukocytes. So as the blood is flowing more there because of the vasodilation, there goes the more blood, and also more cells have a chance to get attack on that inflamed area and cure it as fast as possible. So there are also many inflammatory mediators like histamine, bradykinin, PGI, nitric oxide. So all those reach that area, and as soon as possible they try to remove that inflammation. So let us see actually what is inflammation. Anything that injures our vascular a tissue response is inflammation. So the inflammatory response is good for ourselves to bring more blood, more proteins to the area to remove the cause of injury and remove the dead cells and pave the way for the repair. So the blood vessels dilate there, that is allowing more blood flow. So the inflammation is again divided into the chronic inflammations and the acute inflammation. In chronic inflammation, we can see that inflammation response lasts for very long time, and the acute, as the chronic name says, it's very chronic, that it lasts for very long time. So whenever the acute inflammation fails only, it takes the part of chronic, and the acute inflammation is towards the injury where it starts rapidly but leave for only short duration. So this is the acute. So whenever the acute fails, it goes to the chronic inflammation. And what are the cardinal signs of inflammation? Actually, this cardinal signs, it has a very big inflammation has a very rich history, that is it's given by the Celsus. Celsus says that the rubor is the redness, tumor is the swelling, calor is the heat, and dolor is the pain. And it was added by one more sign, that is a fifth clinical sign, that is a functionalacia, that is loss of function, by the Rudolf Virchow. And there are also some other scientists related here. First it was given by Egyptian Papyrus, and next John Hunter is the one who have found that the inflammation is not a disease but it is a non-specific response to the salutary effect on its host. And Ellie McLaughlin is discovered the process of phagocytosis for the first time. And there comes the George Bernard Shaw. He actually showed the play of Doctor's Dilemma, in which the physicians cure all to stimulate the phagocytosis. And the Sir Thomas Lewis studied the inflammatory response in the skin, such as concept of chemical substances such as histamine in the local response to injury and mediate vascular changes of inflammation. This is a fundamental concepts which were due to discoveries. So we can come to know that we are going to use the anti-inflammatory drugs in the clinical medicine because of all these inflammatory responses. So you can see the cardinal signs. The pain is nothing but it's due to chemical mediators in the site of injury. So it's the dolor. Redness is due to the arterial dilation, that is the rubor. And the hot or warmness in the site is due to the more blood flow, that is calor. And the swollen region in the inflammation is due to the permeability of the circulation is increased. So this is nothing but tumor. And the loss of function is that as it is functional, as there is in the inflammation size, as the cells are injured, so they lost the function, and this is known as functional loss here. And coming to the actually our cells, normal cells have two types of cells, that is the parenchymal cells and the specialized cells. So parenchymal cells are nothing but they are specialized to specific area. Example, we can take neurons in the brain, hepatocytes in the liver, and epidermis in the skin. But the stromal cells are the supporting cells to the parenchymal cells. They are like example microglial cells in the brain, and the vascular cells, macrophages in the stroma of the liver, and the dermal cells in the stroma of the skin. So these are the stromal cells. So intrinsic ability to injure the normal tissues. Actually, inflammation is also something like a double sword, because sometimes it is useful but sometimes it is harmful in the cases like it attacks our own self tissues, like in rheumatoid arthritis, atherosclerosis, lung fibrosis, as well as in life threatening hypersensitivity reactions like in insect bites, inflammatory drugs, drugs and toxins. So pharmacies are bound to anti-inflammatory drugs in these cases. So when they are harmful, we use this kind of drugs and also control this harmful nature. Actually, inflammation is known as the silent killer because it's causing the chronic inflammation, playing the role in atherosclerosis, type 2 diabetes, and also the degenerative disorders like Alzheimer's diseases and also cancers. So this is why we are using the anti drugs. And next coming to, so from the injured cell membrane, what happens is the leukotrienes, prostaglandins are released, and when the mast cells damage, they produce the histamines, leukotrienes and cytokines. So by any mechanism, if any cell is injured, they produce the chemical substances causing the inflammation there. So these are called the chemical mediators of the inflammation, like all we discussed: PGIs, nitric oxide, leukotrienes, macrophage, neutrophils, etc. So the mast cells are present in all connective tissue and under the endothelium linings and also other cell linings, tissue linings, so which are very sensitive and release the chemical mediators of inflammation whenever they are triggered. So actually acute inflammation is where we can divide them into the vascular events and the cellular events. So vascular events, first one is the transient vasoconstriction. That is first whenever this process is triggered, initially they undergo constriction, that is allowing only small amount of blood, but later they undergo the prolonged vasodilation by many chemical mediators like nitric oxide, prostaglandins, histamine has a 7-pass receptor, prostaglandins also has 7-pass receptor, and nitric oxide has a intracellular guanylate cyclase receptors. So it's just a recap of biochemistry. So here in the vascular events we have, actually first let us see in a normal vascular channel. Here we can take example. So in a normal vascular channel, what happens is, you can compare it with this. So in a normal vascular system, what happens is, at the arterial side there is hydrostatic pressure of 35 millimeters for example, and as it is moving towards the capillaries, its pressure decreases to the 15 millimeters of mercury. So the net and the osmotic pressure is 28. So if you remember, the osmotic pressure is which always tries to put the fluid inside the capillaries itself, but the hydrostatic is always trying to push the fluid out of the capillaries. So here you can see the hydrostatic pressure is more. Of course, as we take the net of this, as the hydrostatic pressure is more, always the capillaries fluid tries to push it outwards. So the net movement is outwards, fluid moving outwards. So this is in the normal tissue, and at the venous side, if you take it, is 15. So first what happens, like this it comes out to the interstitial. After coming outside, what happens is, next to the venous side it is 15 millimeters and the osmotic pressure is 28. So if the osmotic pressure is low, but the venous side hydrostatic pressure is more. So if the hydrostatic pressure is more, we know, hydrostatic pressure is low but the osmotic pressure is low. So as your osmotic pressure is high, it tries to pull it back to the circulation. So the amount of fluid which has come out is eventually going back to the circulation. So there is no problem in a normal vascular tissue. So this is the inward movement. So as the fluid is coming and going out is same, so the interstitial protein remains same and there is no problem of this accumulation, etc. But in the inflammation, what happens is the hydrostatic pressure increases because of the dilation. We know, as here this is the example of inflammatory cell. Here you can see the arteriolar dilation as takes place. So as arteriole is directed, there is more flow of blood into the circulation and leading to the increase in the hydrostatic pressure. So as more hydrostatic pressure, it more frequently tends to come out of the circulation. So if, for example, 65 millimeters of hydrogen, and endothelial cells develop gaps, and one more problem is endothelial cells develop blood because of the more pressure, so there are gaps, and you can see endothelial gaps, and proteins lead out lead to move out, so the osmotic pressure decreases inside the capillaries. So change in this Starling pressure in an injured tissue, the net force towards outward is so much increased, that is losing of excessive fluid with lot of proteins, this is important, to the interstitium or the body cavity nearby, called the exudation. So the exudation is nothing but loss of extra fluid along with lot of proteins. This process is known as exudation. So the inflammation with is always associated with the exudation, and when disturbed, the Starling forces lead to the leaking out of fluid with normal permeability of vascular endothelium. There is also another case known as transudation, in which what happens in this also, the hydrostatic pressure increases and fluid tends to come out, but there is no vascular permeability decrease, that is they are the endothelial cells are intact. So when endothelial cells are intact, it comes out only the normal fluid without any protein, then it is known as transudation. So this is a protein poor fluid, it's just the ultrafiltrate. So let us also learn about edema. Edema is nothing but excessive fluid in the interstitium or body cavities, and it may be the exudate or transudate. So this is important. So it may be protein rich or not protein rich. So it's not a deal in edema. It's not. And in inflamed tissue, edema is exudate. We know because exudate is nothing but in inflamed tissue. In the inflamed area, there is also a formation of interendothelial gaps, and the chemical mediators like histamine, bradykinin, and leukotrienes act there. So this is a important thing we need to remember. So this is all about our introduction of inflammation. And one more thing, let us see about pus. Actually, pus is also a purulent exudate, that is protein rich fluid. It is also an inflammatory exudate rich in leukotrienes. Mostly neutrophils are present in the pus, and the debris of the dead cells, or also in many cases microbes are present. And next, the vascular reactions of the acute inflammation consist of changes in the flow of blood and the permeability of vessels. So the proliferation of blood vessels, that is angiogenesis, is prominent during the repair and in chronic inflammation, this process. So this is a process. Factors, we also have some factors which are inducing the inflammation, that is nothing but the in mammals we have mostly the toll-like receptors for microbial detection, and also the engagement of this receptor triggers the signal pathways that stimulate the production of various mediators. And in tissue necrosis, we have some factors like uric acid, purine metabolites, adenosine triphosphate, a normal energy store, that is a DNA binding of unknown function, that is HMGB1, and even DNA, and also sometimes the hypoxia, that is HIF1 alpha, that is hypoxia induced factor 1 alpha, also induce the inflammation. And also there are including vascular endothelial growth factors like VEGF, which increases the vascular permeability, and foreign bodies like splinters, dirt, sutures also. And in immune reactions, we have the hypersensitivity reactions, in which is normally protective immune system damage the individual own tissue. So these are all also somewhat included in this, because the stimuli for the inflammatory response, that is self tissues, cannot be eliminated. The autoimmune reaction tend to persistent and difficult to cure, are associated with the chronic inflammations mainly. And next, the term immune mediated inflammation disease is often used to refer to this group of disorders. There is nothing but, you can see, the inflammation is induced by cytokines produced by the T lymphocytes and other cells of the immune system. So this is all about this.